Hi everybody, and thank you for joining me today. So I'm working more on the dark part of the peacock's wing here, and I might get a little bit into the neck and head of the peahen. I've done some of her crest feathers last time, and then, yeah, just because of the way I'm following the colors that I may just end up doing that for now. So, yeah, I apologize in advance. It's probably going to be quite a bit of background noise today as it is a stormy one out there. Yeah, the winds are going nuts. Not as bad as some areas, but they're still pretty high. So I think they're like 60 to 80 kilometer gusts out there. So yeah, my vent cover's flapping around back there and trees are all bending over. Yeah, I was going to take a walk outside, but as I was putting on my workout clothes, I heard how loud the wind was howling and went, okay, yeah, we're not doing that. Nope. So, okay, a little bit out of order here. So yeah, instead I dragged out my walking machine and we did it inside because, yeah, that was just not good. So, funny story. Kiddo went out for a drive and he went out on the range roads, and then he tried to turn around in a muddy area, and yeah, he didn't realize that, yes, his vehicle's a 4x4, but it's not an off-road vehicle. They're not the same thing. And he got it totally stuck. Yeah, like up to the fenders in mud. It was not budging. And yeah, so he had to call us and say, help. And yeah, he thought it was just going to be like, you know, stick a tow rope on it, pull it out, he'll be on his way. No, that was not happening. So yeah. It was during a school day, so I had to go and take him back to school. Said, don't worry, we'll deal with it. And his poor dad had to dig for about 2.5 hours. And he was able to then sort of get in and sort of rock it back and forth about 6 inches. Not enough to get it out, but enough that it was a little, you know, looser in there. And we had to call tow truck. And this Jeep doesn't have tow pins automatically installed. So what they had to do was they had to put the parking brake on and loop their tow rope through the axles, through the rear tires, and pull it out that way. That way they wouldn't spin if the brake was on. Yeah, and that's how they got it out. But yeah, they got it, and no damage. So yeah, because it was like, it had been raining for days and it was like clay mud almost. So yeah, once that gets you, it's like suction. It holds you in it. It's not letting go. So yeah, he got it stuck in there good. And so we told him, okay, no more off-roading after this. Like, the thing is, the one he used to drive that we sold, the Trooper, it is an off-road vehicle. It's got like 4x4 low, 4 high. It's, yeah, like, it could tackle just about anything. And I think that one would have made it through that mud. And so he was used to that. And he didn't realize that this one, yeah, it's 4-wheel drive, but it's meant for like when you hit a patch of ice on a paved road. It's not meant for going off-road. So yeah. But yeah, like I said, there was no damage. It actually wasn't even that expensive for the tow truck to come out. We were expecting to pay more than they charged us. So yeah. Yeah, it's just a funny story we're going to get to tell now. Yeah. So yeah, I took a picture of it, put it on my Facebook, you know, my son's first tow. Oh. Yeah, and we told him too, like, you're lucky that you still had cell phone coverage where you were because, you know, because you're out on the range roads, you never know, and you're lucky you didn't have to go hiking somewhere until you could get cell reception to tell us to where you were to come get you, because yeah, like he went out during his school lunch hour, and if he didn't come back in time, they would have contacted us asking where he was, and like that could have been a whole thing if we couldn't get a hold of him, right? Yeah, worry about him going missing. So yeah, and my husband told him, like, my husband was part of an off-road club for a while. He had not the Trooper we sold, but a previous one that he sold to his dad that was off-road vehicle, and they did, like, he put a big bush cart on it, a winch, that kind of stuff. And yeah, he said, like, when they went out off-roading, you went as a club. You weren't supposed to go alone for exactly this reason. You don't want to be stuck out in the middle of a bog somewhere with no way to pull your vehicle out and no way to contact anybody, right? Because you don't have any cell reception. So that's why they would go, about 5 or 6 vehicles would go together. And yeah, it was funny because they called my husband's truck the little Trooper because it was an Isuzu Trooper, but also it was the smallest out of all the old all of their off-road vehicles. And it was a tough little thing. Like, it could make it through a lot. Although, yeah, there was one bog he tried to get through and he got totally stuck, and they had to winch him out, and it was bad. Like, it was all over the inside of the engine, and everything was just covered in this heavy clay. And so he had to have it brought back to us on a flatbed. Yeah. And fortunately, one of the guys who was in his off-road club ran a towing business, and so he was willing to drive it back to our house just for the cost of gas, which was really nice of him. Yeah. And then, like, my husband had to take everything apart to clean it out because all the filters, everything was just full of clay. Like, yeah, you can't get that out with just a quick, you know, wash. Yeah. So he learned his lesson after that, because yeah, he told me he was going to join the other guys, because sometimes, like, they'll go in a club and sort of, you know, people will take passengers with them, and he was just going to ride along. He wasn't going to. And then yeah, he called me, he's like, so I decided I actually was going to, and yeah, now the truck won't run anymore. I was like, oh, come on. Yeah, we had pictures of it. Our son was about 5 or 6 at the time, and we had pictures of him standing next to it, and it's just completely covered up to over the headlights in just clay. So it looked like a 2-tone, you know, paint job or something. I said I bug him because, you know, he always winces about going over potholes or over speed bumps and stuff because, oh, it's hard in the car. I'm like, but then you intentionally take it through, like, bogs and drive it over tree trunks and stuff, like, right? I don't get it. Yeah, I always told him, your hobbies are way more expensive than mine. Yeah. Because, yeah, I'll spend, you know, a fair amount kitting up this kind of a project, but then I stitch it for, you know, like 3 to 5 years. So in the end, yeah, when you consider that got you 3 to 5 years of entertainment, that's a better deal than, yeah, some of the stuff he does for hobby. Because, yeah, like, I think I had one project, with the Aida cloth and the embroidery floss, it was about $400, but, yeah, I stitched it for, like, 3 years, so, yeah, when you consider that. Well, we each have our budget of fun money, so however we choose to spend it. Because, yeah, one time I came home from library book sale with a big bag of books, and my husband kind of said, oh, you need more books? And I said, well, you need more tools? He's like, yeah, fair enough. Yeah. Well, it's because he knew I had, yeah, books for, you know, I've got like 3 bookshelves downstairs. They're 5 rows high, and I have my paperbacks are double stacked. So I've got them standing, like lying down, not standing up, and stacked, and then there's a second stack in front. And in some cases, they're starting to be triple stacked. So yeah, I have a lot. And that's not even counting ebooks, because yeah, I don't really read paper books that much anymore. I got spoiled by being able to make the font bigger on my e-reader. Plus, I do like the fact that I can just prop it up in a stand and I don't have to physically hold it open, because I do notice now, if it's a really thick paperback especially, holding it open, my thumb starts to get sore. And I don't like breaking the spines on books, so... Because, yeah, you can do that to make the book, you know, stay open, but I hate breaking the spines on books. I was always taught to treat books with respect, so... I remember we were watching Angels and Demons one time, and at one point, they're going through these old books to look for clues, and I think somebody was coming after them or something like that. So she just rips the page out of this, like, you know, 400-year-old book, and I just, you know, this big gasp, because, oh my God, like, to me, that's just so wrong, right? Oh, I don't go ripping pages out of books, but especially not antique, you know, books is just, oh no, that's so wrong. Ugh. Yeah, that was one of my pet peeves when I watch movies, is people are handling things that are supposedly antiques with, like, just their bare hands, and so callously. It's like, oh, look at this piece of antique lace, and they just, like, sticks it in the girl's hand, and I'm just like, no! Because, yeah, like, the acids and oils on your hands will eat away at stuff like lace or paper, or, yeah. And it's like, I know it's just a movie, it's a prop, it's not actually, you know, a piece of antique lace or whatever, but it just feels so wrong, yeah, to do that. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, where are your gloves? Because, yeah, I got to see some older books, and yeah, you had to wear gloves to handle them, because over time our hand oils and things will damage them. Yeah, my husband actually has some really old books that are so old the pages are not cut. They're the old ones where you were supposed to, they would come with what they called a paper knife, which almost looked like a letter opener, but it was usually made of like wood or something. But yeah, you would have to cut the pages open to read the book, so you could tell if a book had never been read if the pages were still uncut. Yeah, nowadays the way they do books is different. But in those days, with the way the printing press worked, yeah, it would be folded up and bound into the book, and sometimes those pages would not be cut. So, yeah, he has an old copy of The Three Musketeers. I don't think it's a first edition, but it is older, and yeah, it still has the pages uncut, so that's pretty cool. Yeah, that was one of those rabbit holes I fell into, because I was reading a historical novel, and they made a mention of a paper knife, and I was like, what's a paper knife? And yeah, discovered that, yeah, they used to have to cut open books as you read them. Yeah, it's interesting how things get lost as technology changes. I had a mass market paperback one time that about 30 pages were bound in upside down. And so, yeah, at one point my husband comes in, he's like, why are you holding your book upside down? It's like, no, it's because, yeah, they these pages ended up in the wrong way around. And I actually had to put a piece of paper covering up the ones that were right side up when I got to the last page of that section, because it was actually making me dizzy seeing it out of the corner of my eye that, yeah, the words were upside down on one side. Ooh. I mean, I guess at least it was all there. I did have one mass market paperback that I bought that had like 20 pages were repeated, and so it was missing, like pages, say like 310 to 330, were repeated, which then meant that pages 330 to like 350 were not there. Yeah, because somebody messed it up. And I had bought it, I think, at a thrift store or something, so it's not like I could return it or something, right? And yeah, so I was not happy. I was sort of able to, I finished it and I sort of able to piece together what was missing, any plot points that were missing in that 30 pages. But yeah, at the end, I just discarded that book because I didn't think it was really fair for anyone else to, you know, same thing. You buy a book expecting an entire story and it's not there. Yeah. So I stuck it in recycling. But yeah, they had paperbacks, they have a little warning in them saying that if you purchase this book without a cover, that it's stolen. And that's because when they have remainders, they would require them to pull the covers back and ship the covers back to prove that they had been unsold. And because if they ship the whole book back, obviously that costs more because it's heavier. So yeah. But yeah, there was someone who said they work in a bookstore who had to do that, that it just felt so wrong destroying books like that. Yeah. Some places don't. There's some places that will, I remember there was, I can't remember what the site was called, but my sister-in-law is a big reader too, so she had sent me this one where you could buy what they call remainders, which are the books that have been unsold from a print run after a certain amount of time. They basically write them off as a loss. And the books will usually have like a black felt mark along the edge of the pages, or a dot or something to somehow indicate that they were remainders. And then you can buy them for cheaper. So say if the, pardon me, if the list price was originally like $8, you can get them for like half price or even less. You know, some places will sell them for like $3 or something. And yeah, so there's places that will go and buy remainders for cheap and then sell them for a little bit of markup, but less than full price. Yeah, the only drawback was this website she sent me to, you had to buy, I think it was like $300 worth at a time, and they would ship it on like a little pallet, and it was like, I'm not sure about that, so I never did buy it from them. But I know I had bought remainders in like outlet stores and things like that, and that's why they have like a black felt mark on them. Yeah, I would feel much better about doing that than ripping the covers off books and tossing the pages into the recycling bin. That's just like, ouch. But yeah, so they said that there are authors that if they paid you in advance and you ended up with a lot of remainders that didn't cover, your sales didn't cover what they given to you as an advance, then you have to pay it back, which really sucks. Yeah, because sometimes they expect a book to do well and it just doesn't. Yeah, and there have been cases of, I know there was an author who had been writing a planned trilogy, and I read the first 2 books and I went looking for the 3rd one and discovered it had never been published because the first 2 books did not do as well as they had hoped, and so they dropped her. And because they had dropped her, she was able to keep writing other books for other publishers, but nobody was willing to print the 3rd book because, you know, if they don't own the rights to the first 2 books, that they don't want to come in mid-series. I mean, unless you're like a really, really big name, they might do that, But nowadays, of course, we do have the option of self-publishing, which I know a couple authors have done when publishers, traditional publishers, declined to print the final books in a series that they had planned. Sometimes the author will choose to self-publish it because they didn't sell the rights to the 3rd book, so the author still has them. Or there's cases where years later the rights will revert back to the author after the contract expires, and then they're able to self-publish those books later. Yeah, like I was saying in a previous video, I kind of wished I'd known self-publishing was going to be such a big thing, because I spent quite a lot tracking down out-of-print books, only for them years later to be released for ebooks, self-published by the authors once they got their rights back. And sometimes they were even given away as freebies too. So I was like, oh, I spent $25, you know, getting this book, including shipping and import fees if there were any. And if I just waited a little longer, I could have had it for free. Or even if not for free, sometimes not for too much. Plus, if it's self-published, then that means the author will get the royalty for that sale, right? If I'm buying it, an out-of-print used copy from someone else, the author doesn't see any of that, obviously. They got the royalty the first time it was sold. They aren't going to get it on the resale. So I guess it's kind of a win-win then for the author if you buy it self-published and pay less, because at least they still make a little bit of a royalty that way. Yeah, I remember there was a thing going on that somebody was saying it was a way to save money, that people were buying books on Amazon and then returning them after reading them. And that meant some of these smaller indie authors were actually left owing money after people did that. And I just said, you know, please don't do that. And if you really want to read the book, go to your library and request that they get a copy, which means you could read it for free and the author would receive their due, you know, because I don't think that's fair to buy it, read it, and then return it. Yeah, that's seems kind of skeezy to me. So yeah, the only time I've ever returned a book was when I accidentally hit one-click buy unintentionally, and I did not read any of it, you know. And there was a couple times I hit one-click buy and it turned, and I didn't mean to, but it was like 99 cents, and I just kind of went, okay, I'll give them a try, you know, for $1. I'll let the author keep their, you know, 35 cents or whatever it is they're going to make out of that sale. Yeah. But yeah, it's like most authors are not rich, especially self-published ones. They're doing it because they enjoy doing it, but they're never going to make a ton of money on it. Not unless they get very lucky. Because I believe the book The Martian that they made a movie out of later starring Matt Damon started out as a self-published book, but like, yeah, for every one book that happens to, there's a million others that sort of just fade into obscurity and nobody but the author's friends has ever read, kind of thing, right? So, yeah. Okay, yeah, so like I said, it's quite a lot of popping and stuff because my house is shifting in that windstorm. Oh yeah, and I did not start at 0 today. I started at 41. So we'll see what we get done in this time. There's some confetti here, but then we're going to start getting some longer runs of color coming up. Because yes, we're going to start getting into the top of this bird's head, I believe. Take a look at my mock-up. Yes. Yeah, the top of her head. And she's facing that way. Her neck is that way, so yeah, the colors are going to flow that way as well. Oh man, I feel bad for anybody stuck working outside today. Whew. Yeah, hang on to your hat because it'll go flying. Oh yeah, I should mark that I stitch that one before I forget. So I've done that before and then had to figure out what it was I did. So yeah, I'm just gonna mostly work along this edge. I did a little work here and then mostly along that edge for the rest of this session. And then I think pretty soon I'm going to be moving my frame over again. Yeah, I find I move it about 3 to 4 times throughout the month. If I'm stitching on something of a higher count, then I move it about 2 to 3 times if I was stitching on that exclusively. But yeah, because I'm working on 14 count here, the whole project is a bit bigger. Oh, silly me. I was supposed to park that. Oh well, too late. I've already tied it off. I'll just add another thread later when I have to do that one. Yeah, I was not paying close enough attention there. My mistake. Okay, 931. Oh well, at least it isn't, I stitched something where it wasn't supposed to be and tied it off, because I've done that before. And that is a big pain. I do not like having to undo that later. So I missed one, but it's easier to just fill it in later when you miss one than to accidentally stitch somewhere that you weren't supposed to and have to take it out later. That's much more annoying. Yeah, a fair bit of confetti here until we can get into the bigger blocks of color. Okay, yeah, here come the bright blues again. Oh, sorry for wobbling my frame there. I had to change position. Ooh. Ooh. Oh my goodness me. I actually slept better last night, but still got a bit of a sleep debt to catch up on, so. Yeah, it's supposed to rain for a few days, and then we're supposed to get a few warmer days. Yeah, I wonder if it's going to be one of those stormy summers. I remember when I was a kid, we had one summer, I think we got maybe 4 or 5 days of sunshine the entire summer. The entire 2 months we were off school, it was just overcast and rainy the rest of the time. Yeah, it was very depressing. We were not that happy about it. So I hope we're not in for that. Although I suppose if it's that and another bad fire season, I'd rather have the rain. Yeah, as long as it doesn't flood. But we generally don't get enough to flood around here, so we are fortunate in that. Yeah, we had one time there was flooding, but that was because a storm drain clogged up. And yeah, it was in the industrial area. That was where my husband and I used to work together. And yeah, because this was before our son was driving, so one of us would have to drive him to school. So usually it was me. I took kiddo into school and then I drove to work because I only worked part-time. So yeah, and my husband called me and just said, don't bother trying to come into work because it is flooded. The streets were, yeah. And yeah, there were pictures of it. Dumpster got swept away. Somebody's little Sprint got swept away. And my husband was in a full-size company truck. And he drove through the water, and he said he was this close to his tires floating off the ground. So he was lucky that he didn't choke it. Yeah. And we had the grocery store that was down not much of a hill, but enough that, yeah, the water started coming up through the storm drains. People had pictures of it. It was like a geyser. It was terrible. Yeah. Yeah, like I said, because we're out on the prairie, we generally don't get a lot of rain, so we're not really built for flooding. That was a rare one, yeah. We were lucky, actually, because our actual workplace building was again up on just enough of a raised ledge, like just a few inches, that it didn't flood. It came really, really close, but it didn't. I said I was glad because I had an electric floor mat on the floor to a heated pad for my feet. And I was thinking, oh, I hope it doesn't flood because it'll get fried, right? And it wasn't on, but I mean, it was plugged in, so that's probably not good either. But thankfully, yeah, the water did not overtake the threshold there. So yeah, we were lucky. Yeah, and then there was some pictures in the news. Some people got out their kayak. That were kayaking in the streets. Like, yeah, there's Canadians for you. Although if they were true Canadians, it should have been a canoe, not a kayak. But because yeah, it was funny. We have a chain called Canadian Tire, which is a hardware store, and they give out Canadian Tire money. It's now like a points system or whatever, but it used to be actual like printed paper, what looked like money, and it wasn't a lot. Like you'd spend $10 and they give you like 5 cents worth of it. But anyway, there was a guy who saved up enough that he bought a canoe with just Canadian Tire money, which yeah, people joked was like the most Canadian thing ever. Yeah, I remember my son's school actually had a big bin that you could donate your Canadian Tire money into so that they could use it to buy sports equipment for, the school and stuff. So because I mean, a lot of people that have, $2 or $3 worth, but if everybody contributes $2 or $3 worth, it adds up, right? So, yeah. Yeah, I am saving up my Canadian Tire money for when I have to buy a new vacuum cleaner. My old one is starting to not suck anymore. Yeah. And I have cleaned out, because it has filters that, it's bagless, but it has filters that you're supposed to rinse out once a month, which I have been doing, but yeah, it's getting to the point where the whole thing is not producing the suction it used to. So, actually, let's see. I'll just park this up here then. I should have gone the other way so I could park in the upper right, but okay, that's all right. We'll work it out. Yeah, we actually went to a dinner theater show. It was for a work party, and it was like a parody or whatever on Orange is the New Black, and in it they had the storyline was that the prison guard or whatever was making them counterfeit Canadian Tire money. Yeah, and anyway, it was funny because it shows guy handing over like these 2 huge duffel bags of Canadian Tire money and exchanging it for real money, and then of course the real money is like, this tiny little fold of bills, because yeah, the joke about how you'd need, this much a stack of Canadian Tire money this big to be like $2 worth. So yeah. Okay, 519. Do have that one out for now. Yeah. Pack it away later, but Okay, so I want to fill in some more so I can do all of those sort of at once without closing anything in. So we'll close in or fill in a few more of these colors along this edge here that are just 1 or 2 stitches. It kind of slows things down when you have only a single stitch of a color, but I figure I can do them as I come across them or can leave them till the end, and I decided I don't like leaving them till the end of a section. Yeah, I didn't enjoy having to search those out, and I would always miss 1 or 2, so I find this way I'm less likely to miss a stitch. I still have had a couple times when I was taking out my grid lines at the end and discovered a stitch or 2 that I had done the bottom leg and forgotten to cross the top leg, which is another reason why I don't take my grid lines out till the very end. Yeah, because that way, if I do find a mistake, the grid lines help me to figure out where I went wrong so that I can fix it more easily. Okay. Lots of leftover pieces here, which actually works out nicely. Yeah, you can see a wing ending and the other bird's neck is starting here from the way the colors have changed. Yeah, and then after I move my frame, I will get to work on some tail feathers finally. Woo! Yeah, there's some blue here, and then there's going to be some paler white for around the second bird's eye. Yeah, I have to be careful when you open your car door in this kind of wind that it doesn't fly out of your hand. definitely not getting the kind of stitch count I got last time. Last time we got 200 in just over an hour, but this time is definitely a lot slower. And I didn't even start at 0, so I'm almost at 90 now, but I actually did over 40 of those before I started filming. So yeah, the high confetti areas slow me down. So yeah, people ask me how many stitches I do per day, but it depends so much on, you know, what is in that area I'm stitching. If it's 2 or 3 colors in bigger blocks, then yeah, I can manage a lot more than when it's like this. Okay, so now we can do a bunch of this color in a row. Which is what I was working my way up to. Yeah, I was saying a few videos back, my husband ordered something from Amazon and it didn't work, and they had him ship it back, and they sent him a replacement, and the replacement turned out to be the exact same one. And I just had that happen to me. I'm pretty sure, because I bought a set of DVDs and they wouldn't play. The first disc in the set had a really bad transfer. You could see it, and so it couldn't read the data. And so I did I went on and I returned it, and they, you know, gave me the shipping label, and I shipped it back and everything, and I ordered a replacement. And I swear they must have shrink wrapped it and sent me back the same one, because it was the very first disc that had the bad transfer, and it looked exactly the same as I remembered it looking the previous time. So yeah, I wasn't happy. And I bought the season 3 of the same DVD set, and same thing. The first disc was just, it was so bad it crashed my DVD player. It would load the menu, but as soon as you tried to play any of it, it would just get stuck, and you couldn't even eject the disc. I ended up having to go and unplug the machine and then plug it back in and quickly hit eject before it could try to load it, because yeah, as soon as it tried to load it, it just got stuck in this loop of trying to play, getting stuck, trying to play, getting stuck, and you couldn't eject it either. And yeah, so I sent it back, and when they asked me what was wrong with it, and I said, you know, that was defective, and then I said, did somebody just shrink wrap this and send it right back to me, because it looks like the same one. And yeah, so I wasn't happy. And I said, yeah, I think that's a problem, is sometimes they get returns and they assume it's returned because someone didn't want it. And it's like, okay, but it should be in your records that it was returned because it was defective. You guys should either get rid of it, or you need to send it back to the manufacturer to get your money back, right, for a defective item, because shipping it back and forth to customers can't exactly be good for business, because they have to pay the return fee too, right? or at least they do when it's because the item's defective. I don't know if you changed your mind, if you have to pay it or not. I don't know, but I've never done that. I've only ever returned stuff that was defective or claimed a refund because I didn't get what I ordered. Yeah, because yeah, I had a to-do last year where I ordered some magnetic cable ties and they sent me a completely empty envelope. Oh, which I said, like, how does that happen? There wasn't even a packing slip or anything. I don't know how anybody doesn't notice that, hey, we're shipping something to a customer that's completely empty. Maybe we should check if there's supposed to be something in there. Like, oh. And so, yeah, then they tried to say, well, our records show you received it. I'm like, yes, I received an empty envelope. There's nothing in there. No product, nothing. You know, they're asking me if the product's defective. I'm like, well, no, the problem is there's no product. And then they asked me to send them a picture. So I sent a picture of me holding the empty envelope, you know, propped open to show there's nothing there. Like, so yeah, don't give me the opportunity to be snarky because I will take full advantage. But yeah, I did get my refund. So what I ended up doing is I had some cable ties I had previously purchased that unfortunately they said the magnets were strong, but they were wimpy as heck. They couldn't even hold a couple sheets of paper together kind of thing. And so what I ended up doing was I went to the hardware store and I bought some more expensive magnets and then just taped them on the ends. I was gonna super glue them, but then I was like, super gluing magnets where the things can jump around, I'll just glue my fingers together. I know I will. So the tape doesn't look so good, but I prefer that to having to go to the ER going, yeah, I super glued my fingers together. Yeah, so far, I haven't super glued myself to anything or myself to myself. And I intend to keep it that way. So, yeah. Yeah, my sister's old violin teacher, she accidentally super glued herself to her vacuum cleaner trying to fix it. Whoops. Yeah. Actually, super glue is what they used on my kiddo when he was, I think 4. And he was climbing on something in his room and he fell. And he smacked his face right into a piece of Duplo Lego right between the eyes. And the skin split. And instead of stitches, yeah, they actually glued it back together. And the doctor did it so well that, like, you will only notice there's a scar there if you know there's a scar and you can look and you look really closely. But otherwise, yeah, you won't see it. And I said, well, I guess it turned out to be fortunate that my kiddo ended up needing glasses because, yeah, the bridge covers up the any scar that there. You'll never see it unless you're really, really looking. But yeah, I had friends who, same thing, their kid fell on baby Lego and hurt themselves. And they said, people didn't believe him. And I said, oh, I believe you because, yeah, my kiddo needed to have his face glued back together after he landed on one the wrong way. Ugh. Okay. Okay. 9, 3, 2. There we go. No, yeah, we won't be parking this strand anywhere. It is too short. Let's not have knots. Okay. And for the brightest color, oh, there it is. Yeah, it extends down a ways below that cutoff line there, which I figured it would, since it's on her neck. Sorry, my table's being squeaky. I don't know why. Table that holds my tablet and stuff. Yeah, so I had someone ask last month if I was going to get to the second bird's head, but yeah, I said it was probably for this month, and I was right. But yeah, we'll definitely get to some more tail feathers. There's more of them in this pass than in the previous one. Yep, stretches out further, and then we get more of the window in that wall. And some more flowers, and then we will be starting yet another pass. This is the third one, I believe. Oh no, fourth actually. Ah, sweet. A fourth out of 9. So I started this session with 41 completed, so now I will have done over 100 in this session. Yeah, like I said, there was a fair bit of confetti, so it took a little longer. Till I could get to these sort of stripy bits. Okay. As much as I find moving the frame is a bit of a pain because wrestling this thing in and out of my floor stand and all that can be kind of an ordeal, I do like when I move the frame because, yeah, then I get to sort of spread it out and take a look at the whole piece at once. Yeah, see it, how it adds up, all those stitches. Like I say, it's one X at a time, but when you put so many of them together, you can make something really impressive. Okay, juggle these colors back and forth a bit. Ends really like to be playing peekaboo with me today. Yeah, I'm not sure. When I move it, I may work more from the bottom up because of the way things are shaped. We'll just see what I decide to do when I get there. Actually, I think let's do this color first. That way when I stitch over it, it will be anchored down. More threads going through it, this carry across the back. Yeah. Goodness, it's like the 5th or 6th one today. Yeah. Well, when there's a lot of confetti, that means more ends to deal with. More pin stitches and more ends. I think I'll probably just carry these colors here that are already attached down to the bottom, and then that will be, I think, where I take a break. Done a pretty good amount, I think. Oh, speaking of ends, there we go again. Those two. To be careful where I pin stitch these because there's some pale white colors there, so these ones I'm going to draw along the back away from that pale area so that they don't show through. Sometimes when I have a lot of threaded ones, the needles stack on top of each other, and yeah, when you pull the thread out, it just unthreads it. Okay. Whew. Yeah, I'm going to do this thread and park and the one below it and park, and then I think that will be where I call it a day. Needle went between these threads here. They're kind of separated. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back down through there and come up the other side. Yeah, sometimes that just happens. Stitching through parked threads, they ended up kind of getting separated. So this way it kind of brings them back together. So there we go. So yeah, even with all that confetti, still managed to make a fair bit of progress today. Quite happy with that. So thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope to see you here next time. All right, thanks everyone.